why so many marriages have sexual problems? Do you ever wonder why in a long-term relationship your sexual desire changes and hers changes too? And you ever think about it, like really deeply think about it? Because I think the first reaction that most people have is to think of it as it's one person, like it's her, right? She has a name, right? It's Linda and it's Bob. And it's two people, and you're not thinking about it from a, I guess, a larger perspective. So it's more of a blaming, or it's either very happy with them or very unhappy with them, right? Because that one person is not doing what it is that you don't like or do like. But it is my perspective that, in fact, it is not so personal, is that sexuality can be understood. And this understanding will help you to make better decisions. Okay, so whether you're a man or a woman, or if you're in a couple, this episode, I would recommend playing it if you're in a couple, playing it for the other person, because by understanding these, sometimes not so, what do you call it? Not so happy facts or difficult to digest facts, it allows us to make better decisions. And also, I think a lot, it also allows us to not point the finger and blame when it's not necessary, when it's not true, right? So this is a graph here from a study of sexuality in marriages, right? So you can see it's pretty obvious what happens here. The male sex drive goes up, but you can see it's not very much, maybe 3 point, I don't know, what do you think there? 3.85 to 3.88 or 9 or something, or, it goes up a little bit. It doesn't go up to 4. You can see it's not really that much, right? That's the first thing I want to say is if you've ever taken a statistics class, you know that there's two, you can lie with statistics. And in a graph, it's even worse because you can make it look one way or the other. So I like statistics, right? And I like graphs. So I can, I was very good at that in school. So I'll tell you this, that just think of this as a flat line. The husband's sexual desire, okay, basically doesn't change. Basically the same. Now, the big kind of finding here was that, and this is not an individual woman here. This is not somebody to blame. This is not somebody, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do, whether you are the wife in this situation or you are the husband. It's just, this is biology. Okay, so the female sex drive, in fact, in a marriage, drops very quickly. Like from the moment, you can see it's a very straight line down. And so from the moment you get married, the sexual desire, okay, again, we have to separate two things. And this is what a lot of researchers don't understand. You have to separate desire and frequency of sex because they're not the same. And I'm going to talk about that too. But the desire for sex from the wife right after commitment, essentially, permanence, decision, contract, wedding, however you look at it, goes down, and it really, really drops. And I don't know, I haven't seen what happens after 4 years, and I actually think the study is only 4 years old. So I don't know what's going to happen after that. I'm guessing that it just keeps going down, and it might even decline much more rapidly for the female, whereas the male is essentially the same, right? Not a big change. Physically, guys are not as interested in sex, but in fact, guys do have sex, regardless of whether they're interested. And There's good reasons for that, biological reasons, and we're going to talk about that. But I think this right here tells you what is a bad boy. A lot of people misunderstand what a bad boy is. Essentially, the reason why the bad boy is so attractive is just simply because he doesn't commit. That's it. The guy doesn't commit, and that is very frustrating. And in many ways, it's very attractive, and that goes back to female sexuality and why women have sex. So, in this study too, women had sex even when their desire was. In other words, the frequency of sex did not mirror this graph. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the graph for it, but women were having sex more than you would think from looking at this graph. And why did they do that? The reason why, and every woman knows this, is because there is a concern that, imagine, okay, basically once you've made a commitment, okay, you have to think of sexuality this way. This is the way to think about it. It's like when you are pulling in a fish, when you're fishing. You give the fish some rope, right? You give him some slack, and then you pull him in a little bit, right? You're trying to imagine it's not actually fishing, it's more like holding the fish, right? And you want to keep the fish on the line, right? In this scenario. So the female has got the commitment. Okay. Now sexual desire is dropping like a rock. So, and I'm going to say for men that frequency of sex is not the same as sexual desire. And I definitely for myself, I know the difference. And for me, sexual desire is very important. I have to be wanted. Okay. Consolidation sex or sex just to keep me committed, I wouldn't say it's meaningless because in some ways it's quite, I guess, kind in a way. You know what I mean? It's very complicated, but I do appreciate if somebody is having sex with me, even if they don't want to so much. And that could easily be misportrayed as some kind of abuse, but it is not. It is not some kind of abuse. And in fact, both men and women have sex when they don't want to. Why is that? Why would they do that? As I said before, females do it because they kind of feel like the fish is going to go away. They got the commitment and they want to make sure, just give enough so that the commitment doesn't disappear. So that you can think about it in evolutionary terms, like the baby needs to be cared for. The baby needs food. The baby needs money, right? So got to keep that guy around, right? So women will have sex not when they don't want to, not because of any kind of negative thing. They're just trying to keep the fish on the hook, basically. So they want to keep him around. They want to, is it like feeding a cat? You want to make sure he keeps coming back, right? You want to if you don't have food for long enough, the cat's not going to come back, right? So yeah, that's a better example, actually, cats. I'm at Rick's house in Grafton right now, and he's got a cat, like a wild cat, who comes in and eats, and the door's open, right? So the cat just comes in his little door, and the cat would stop coming in if there was no water or food, right? And so that the female will mate in order to keep him coming around, right? Now, the man will also mate when he doesn't want to, and that's a surprise. But no, this is absolutely the case. Men will have sex when they don't want to, and the reason why is because they're worried about her cheating. Okay, so both men and women have sex when they don't want to, and like if they want to keep the man, from the male perspective, he wants to make sure that at least he doesn't leave the door open to that, right? He wants to kind of like, he feels like he must satisfy her at some level, right? And these things are no joke. So people have sex because they want to and for other reasons, right? And that's very interesting. So you have to kind of see it in a whole perspective, right? And in a way, the man's desire to keep her around is very real and like in a sense loving, because you could say, well, it's protection, right? He's trying to keep her around, so that's not sexual desire. So that's no good, Ronan. That's what you said about. Well, there is some it's very I would say it's a gray zone, because he wants to keep her around, right? He could go get another one, but he wants to keep her around. So there, I guess what I'm saying is there's a little bit of kindness there or something. At the same time as it's Machiavellian, stone cold trying to keep her around, right? So she doesn't, not so much so she doesn't keep her around, but so she doesn't cheat. Sorry, so she doesn't cheat. Now the woman is trying to keep him around, and you could say that's some kind of Machiavellian thing too, because it's not pure desire. But I guess I would say that she still wants to keep him around, right? So there's some value there. There's something in a relationship. There's something there. They care enough to want to keep you around, right? And guys will say, well, it's because the guy's paying the bills, but another guy could pay the bills, right? You know what I mean? It's like, so she's trying to keep you around, and you're not the only. If you were the only guy with a job, the only guy with money in the entire world, then I would say, yeah, she's trying to keep you around, right? Because there's no other people, but there's a lot of other people. And, a lot of guys, they talk about the wall and they think that she can't get another guy. It's not true. She can. So it's not convenient. It's not the most convenient thing she could do. So, but she could, right? And he could get another one too, right? And so I'll say that just back to my philosophy about sex, I really prefer part of the reason why I never got married is I saw these sexless relationships all around me. And I also saw, that I was attractive to women, and that women wanted to be with me. And I once I understood that, I think before I thought I was getting lucky, or, I was pulling one over on people. And then I kind of realized that, like, I was in demand, like women like actually did desire me. And that was a very amazing revelation, because I wasn't raised to have high self-esteem or anything. I wasn't like my parents, like it was not at all that. And so it was a big shock to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in demand, women, whatever reason, I don't know why, but that I was in demand. And so where was I going with that? Fuck. Now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I guess I realized that I didn't need commitment so much, and if I did commit, I was probably going to get this graph. That's the thing, see, is that when it comes to, this is a very big misunderstanding that guys have in the manosphere, MGTOW, is a lot of guys think that Chad, or, Chad Tyrone, they call it, for guys, people that are new to the channel, that means somebody who's in the top, 5%, the very attractive guys, right? That all the women want, right? The 80%. So, they think that guys, those guys, because they're in demand, okay, that they're not subject to these trends. But I will say that I don't know if I'm Chad. I can't say that for sure. I don't even know if Chad exists. You know what I mean? Like, I have no comment on that. But I know that I am subject to this rule, and I suspect, and I also, I've watched other guys, like, for example, I'll watch sports stars, or, soccer stars, football stars, American football, NBA stars. And you think the average guy, sometimes cannot see these guys too clearly. They think, well, that guy is like well built. That guy's got money. That guy's got women hanging out of his car. That guy's got the jacuzzi with the girls. And because of that, they subconsciously believe that he's not subject, because of his attractiveness and how many women are attracted to him. They think he's not subject to the same fundamental rules of nature that he is, because subconsciously a guy knows this. A guy knows that if he marries a woman, she will not have sexual desire for him in the future. Every guy knows that. Like, no, I really believe this. I think about it. Like, think about it. When a guy walks down the aisle, and I like I said, I had an episode on weddings. I did weddings in Japan. I did weddings. I was a wedding minister. I had to pay the bills. Somebody ripped off my company. I had salaries to pay. I had taxes. I had rent. I had to pay bills, and I could make, like, I can't remember what it was I was making, but I was making about $2,500 a weekend doing weddings. And I speak Japanese, so I could, do the whole thing in Japanese, and I was good at it. I'm a good speaker. So I was able to do the weddings, and I was successful. And I did it for a couple of years while I had to pay the bills. Anyway, when I was doing that, I learned a lot about marriage and weddings, which was kind of funny because I was really anti-wedding at the marriage at the time. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say, well, you could say that whatever you want, but the thing was watching people get married. When you're a wedding minister, you meet the couple twice. Okay. At least you meet the couple the day before the wedding or a few days before the wedding, and you do a practice wedding. And and then you have a real wedding, right? With all the family there, the kids throwing flowers, the old grandfather, barely able to stand up, you see that kind of scene. But what was the most interesting for me, that I didn't even really talk about it in the wedding minister video, was that I learned more in the practice day than I did ever in the wedding day. In the practice day is when I heard, the couples talk to each other. I heard them argue. I saw the way they treated each other. I saw the people in the background who, we weren't taking a video this time. So people were doing their own thing, right? And you could see that there was a lot of interesting scenarios, actually. And not all the couples. Some couples, you could tell they were totally in love. Like, there wasn't many, actually, though, to be honest. And there was one was really bad. Oh, this woman was just ordering him around like a dog. Like, I tell you, it was bad. I could not believe it. If you were there, you would not believe how bad it was. I'm serious. It was worse than a MGTOW video. Like, it was, I don't even want to say, it was so bad. It was almost like she was like, I swear it was almost like an S&M video, like a dominatrix. It was bad. Like, I tell you what ran through my mind. I'm serious. You know what I almost did? Because here's the thing. When you date a lot of chicks, you fuck a lot of chicks, right? You start to know the deal, right? What is the deal, right? And I knew, this is the day before the wedding. I knew what the deal was, because there was a definite vibe of, she was the master in that relationship. And I knew what I could have done. And I didn't do it because I just had too much respect for them getting married, because I was, getting paid to do it and all that too. But I do have respect for what other people, their decisions and stuff. But at the same time, like, listen, man, sexuality is deep, man. It's deep. It's powerful. And it goes beyond any contract. And I know that. And it's like a breathing as opposed to something else. I don't know. It's very deep, right? And when you see something like a hot situation, it's very difficult to fucking pass it up, because there just aren't many hot situations. But I knew what I should do to that girl. I knew it. I should have taken her because she would walk away from him like into the other room and just say, listen, just basically just go right up to her and just say, you know, because I knew what she needed. She needed a fucking guy to be her man. Like she needed some guy to fucking break this spell of her being the fucking boss. I'm telling you, and this is the dichotomy of sex, is that the woman who orders and dominates her man, she yearns for somebody. She yearns for somebody to be a real man with her, to take her, I'm serious. That is the number one fantasy of her, is that some guy is going to be, and how that's done and all that is obviously, someone will say it could be misinterpreted or miscon. Of course it could. Of course you could make mistakes. Of course, you need to be very in touch with what's going on. But all that being said, from her perspective, she's dreaming that some guy is going to break through this and be a man with her and manhandle her and dominate her, in a way, and again, when it comes to sexuality, it's very easy to misunderstand. Domination is not like people think. Domination, and you only learn these things from like a lot of sex. And I'm telling you, like, I had a lot of sex. Okay. I had over 700 women and I fucked most of them many times, some of them thousands of times. So there was a lot of practice and learning in this. And what I learned is it's so funny about domination or these type of things. Inexperienced guys will think domination is some kind of like overwhelming thing. It's not. It's almost like a little touch. It's like a little thing. It's a sign that you're dominating. That's all. It's like you come in and it's just like when a guy grabs, when he like firmly grasps her hair and just like a little bit pulls her head back, right? And she will, if this is what she wants, she will totally just like go, oh, as you do that, and then what do? And then you let go. And then you wait for that next moment when she's looking for that sign of domination, that feeling of being dominated, right? And it's like, and then just at the right moment, you might slap her ass, right? And then she just, and it's right if she just starts bucking back and just fucking just going crazy, right? So it's like, you're really like, it really is like surfing rather than lifting weights. And anybody who surfs, it's much more like it's more like ballet. It's more like ballet. If you think of ballet as a very feminine thing, right? And most of the guys might be gay, they're ballet. Surfing is like that. You're really feeling that power of the wave, and you're trying to like, it's like always a lack of power on a surfing. You're just barely going, and then you're getting that speed, and then you're using that speed into a turn, and then you're like, bam, and then the speed is gone, right? And then you're feeling in the ocean. Where is that kind of, where can I catch that current, like that power again? And then you're catching it, and as you're moving the board back and forth, you're trying to ride there, you're trying to catch that thing, and then you catch it, and then you're on it, and you get some more speed, and then you feel like, okay, now you go up and you use the gravity, and you come down and you do a bottom turn, right? And it looks like power, but actually it's not power. Well, the bottom turn is power, but it's after you've gotten all this speed through all these light touches and this flowing and following that invisible current, right? That invisible power in the wave, right? And domination or sex is more like that. It's much more like that. You're riding it and the speed is up and you can feel it. And then you do your bottom turn, right? You don't just like go in and just do a bottom turn because you don't have, everything's not right. The speed's not there. The thing's not there, right? So if you understand the energy of sex you will understand what I'm talking about here. And I think actually understanding the energy of sex will help a lot of guys not have problems in their lives because you I think also there's a benefit to guys. I will tell you this too. There is a real benefit to understanding things, understanding sexuality of women, and understanding the so much stuff is handed to you these days. It's easy. Every car you buy, cars used to be hard to drive. There was a lot of cars that were dangerous. I had a motorcycle that was called the suicide bike. The NSR, 1989 NSR, Honda NSR. That bike in Italy was called the suicide bike because it was just so hard to ride. And I love that kind of bike where it's not dumbed down. It's that you really need to know how to use that two-stroke engine to the max. You can't just, it's not a dumb thing. Like a lot of bikes now, like say a Honda, a 900RR, you just kind of turn the fucking throttle and you go. And you don't really need to have any kind of knowledge of the motor itself. You're very separated from it because everything's been made easy for you, right? And it's the same with so many things in a man's life today. Everything is, you don't realize it, right? You just get in a car and you're like, oh, I like this car. It's easy, But there's value in learning how things work and how things really are. Like an engineer knows. An engineer knows that he's, trading, let's say peak power for average power, right? So that it's easier. So you can't bog the car down. You can't bog the bike down. It's like, so the guy can't sue you because he can say, oh, I couldn't get out of the way of the car because there was no power when I turned the throttle. It's because you were bogging it down, right? You were not with a two-stroke engine. You got to be like, you got to be right on that thing. I let my bike to a guy one day and he was just like, boo, boo. I was on his bike, right? I was on a Katana, right? A 1300 Katana, which I didn't like, by the way, but he was on my bike and he just could not understand it. Like, and I could not understand why he could not understand it. I was like, dude, like Mike, like just like let it rev. Like you gotta ride the power. The two-stroke engine doesn't have unlimited torque, right? You have to ride that you got to ride those RPMs, right? But obviously you can't go too high, right? You're just like, and then you can even do it without a clutch because you can dry clutch it. If you hit it just right, you can just, and you're just right into the next gear, right? And the thing is that learning how a motor works or how to, this is why surfing is not as popular as some of the easier sports like skiing. Skiing, I remember people said skiing is hard. The very first day I skied, I think I was in 6th grade or 7th grade. And we went to Big Bear and I just stood up on the skis and I did the snowplow and I was able to go down the hill. I don't know if it was the first run, but the first day I could from the top to the bottom, all the way down without falling. And it was because it was so easy. There's not many sports that are really hard, like rock climbing or surfing. They're just very difficult. They look easy, and if you get a 10-foot board, then you can break all the rules. But if you get a short board, you are required to follow the rules of nature on that board. That board can barely float. It does not float unless you're moving fast. You are not moving fast unless you catch the wave in the right place and you're faced the right direction. And once you get up, if you do not stay on the top of the wave, you will have a shitty ride because the wave will break and it'll just end. Whereas you have to stay up in the top of the wave, you're way up on the wave, then you're getting your speed, and then you come down. Whereas a shitty surfer will go straight down the wave, and he's lost all the power, right? It's all gone. So there's a little side note on sexuality, but as a man, you are a leader in the bedroom most of the time, whether you want to be or not. Most women will not lead, and a lot of the reason is because they might know something you don't know. And so I don't mind if a woman does lead at times. I'm totally fine with it, because I know that I don't know everything, and I don't take it personally. Like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, she's leading right now. Like, oh my gosh, I have to lead. It's totally stupid, right? A woman has ideas. She can feel her groove. And once she feels that you accept that groove, and once she feels that you understand how energy moves and how it all flows, and you know how to, bam, ramp it up and hit it right at the right time. Just like you're hitting the top of a wave, right? You're like, bam, just with that speed. You got the speed, right? And when you know how to do that, that will release, that will allow her to release, right? So anyway, the understanding how sexuality is and works is essential to relationships, right? Short-term or long-term. And I think, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, you guys that don't know sexuality, there is something in you deep, and I'm talking fucking deep, that is not fulfilled. Because as a man, even though it's totally out of your wheelhouse, in some ways, sexuality, this type of riding the ever so faint energy and building up speed and using that, and then maximizing that bottom turn, right? And then you're feeling that, and then you're just like whack, and like that's being able to follow that vein, right, of gold, and immerse yourself into that sexuality is I believe that this is one thing a lot of men are missing, is they don't understand. They're afraid of, I think a lot of guys, they, and this is why guys use vibrators so much, is because it's so simple. They just pull out this diesel generator type thing that is guaranteed to make her do something. I recommend you don't do that. Although there's nothing wrong with having a vibrator, and you can use it. There's certain scenarios, especially when she's on the rag. It's very important at that time to even do it before she takes her clothes off. It's just when you're watching TV or whatever. And she'll say, no, 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 but trust me. Just wait. You're watching TV. She's got her jeans on. Yeah, just wait. Yeah, yeah, things change. But don't rely on that. That is a fake way to bypass the necessary ramping up of energy that should be happening, right? And so the sexuality, your sexuality, and I think I would also say, I'm going to put this in here, that some women don't understand this either, believe it or not. There are some men who very much understand this riding the energy, which is, you could say it's a female trait. You could say that, but I don't want to label it, because the reason why is because I think guys don't understand that they are complex beings. No matter how, let's say, logical and rational you are as a man, there is a wonder that you have, right, about the world. There is a just go to lay on the grass at night and look up at the stars for a while, and you will start to feel like this kind of wonder. It's the same feeling when you look at a waterfall, or if you see a young child. Just watch them trying to do something, and there's something inside you that like comes out. There's like, and uh, this is a very important part of you. It's a very important part of you as a man to understand this. It might be, like I said, considered like a man is like black hole or death in many ways, and a woman is like a flame in the dark, a light flickering that could be put out. It's beautiful. It has so much energy. It's so unpredictable, and it's, I'm not the first one to make this analogy, by the way, but I really like it. When I look at a flame, I think that is so much like a woman. It's so, it really is. That's such a great example of natural femininity. Okay. I'm not saying that all women have that these days. That this, unfortunately, has been, I don't know, it's not respected, which is crazy because there's so much talk about respecting women, and to not understand and respect this fundamental way of looking at life, or way of being, or nature, is so dumb. I mean, it's like when you understand this about girls and women, you will be a more fulfilled man too, because you'll immediately know that something was missing before. You'll be like, it's so weird because it's, in a way, it's so opposite of my other being. But you'll also know, you'll be like, damn it. This is one of the dichotomies of life. Is like, this is so important for a man. It's very important for a man to understand this. I don't know what the equivalent for females is, where there's something like very important for females to kind of grasp that is out of their kind of wheelhouse, but it really kind of completes them or fulfills them. I think it has, I'm not, just off the top of my head, I would say something with kids, because like you see women doing things with kids. Like I see mothers like sucking the snot out of the kid's mouth because they don't have a tissue right, and cleaning up the shit. It's like, I just can't believe it, because that's the same girl who was, so touchy about those things before. But when taking care of a child, is like gone, nothing, blood, no problem, whatever, and maybe that would be like the I don't know. I'm just kind of theorizing there. I'm not sure about that, but there probably is something like that, an aspect of the other that is important. So let's go back to the sexuality of relationships. So a bad boy, as I said, is somebody who doesn't commit because they're very confounding, right? It's like, it's the fish that got away. And because of that, I believe there's an innate part of the female that is like trying to get him to commit. And it's like there is an enjoyment in trying to catch this non-committal situation, in the same sense that all challenges are, like taking an elevator is not a challenge, right? Going to the moon is a challenge. Climbing a mountain, rock climbing is a challenge, right? Building a business is a challenge. There's something that is very enjoyable for all of us. A challenge is, let's say, sleeping with a woman for the first time for a man. From a man's perspective, he needs to be the one that makes the first move if he wants to have any sexual satisfaction with women. And he needs to go and talk. He needs to and when you, as a man, when you find yourself doing the right thing and things are going right, it is a great feeling. You're just like, yeah, I did it. Like it's working. It's like everything is working. And I think that sense of, it wasn't given to me. It wasn't a participation trophy. See, this is another reason why I just cannot stand prostitutes, is because any kind of sex worker, there is none of that. There's none of any of this stuff. It's like a Honda, or like a lot of cars that are just very boring to drive, because they don't have any of the natural challenges of real life, right? It is like it's made, it's so dumbed down, and because of that, one, it's easy, but also I don't learn about myself. So anyway, I want to go on. So let's go on. So I want to say, like, one of the things, okay, the factors here about marriage is that a man's sexual desire basically never changes. Now his physical ability changes, but his desire is basically there. And you can ask any older women about this. The guys, I shouldn't say any woman. No, there are exceptions, but in general, the guy still wants it. And her sexual desire now is totally down, but she does have sexual desire. And the researchers, they don't understand life. And so researchers are not, they're not Casanova, right? And so it's difficult for them to put two concepts. The woman's sexual desire for her husband, right? But not in the world. Okay, so her sexual desire, I would postulate that because it's gone down for her husband, it's probably gone up for other guys. In fact, I would say it definitely has, in my experience. And if you listen to the Marriage is Doomed episode, you'll see that there is really an energy when she does cheat with another guy. And a lot of guys and a lot of men's channels will then label the woman some negative name, but I will say right now, that is dumb, because you are dumb if you're doing that. Do not do that, because it's not true. This is a natural thing. It is your responsibility as a man to understand the world and to make smart decisions. When you're deciding if you're going to get married or live together with a woman, you have to know that this is the reality. It has nothing to do with her, and it has nothing to do with you. Excuse me. Dust down here. So you just have to know this is what will happen to you. Okay. And not to make it personal. Just like a kid is going to get taller, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like your kid's getting taller, like children get bigger, right? And they become adults. They just, it's not like, oh my gosh, my kid's getting bigger. What's wrong with him? That's what guys are doing. They're like, you know what I mean? It's like they're just attributing too much to this person when they don't know the reality of life. It's not her desire to tell you. It's not her responsibility to tell you that marriage is the end of her desire for you, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not. Now, I'm going to go over some of the complications here of sex that are very interesting. So a man will have sex even when he doesn't want to. And I did this. And like I said before, okay, I didn't say this yet. So the reason why a guy has sex with a woman is because he doesn't want, or maybe I did say it, he doesn't want her to fuck another guy. That's why he keeps her satisfied, or as satisfied as, you know what I mean? Like at some level, right? That's why he doesn't give up. That's why, is because he's happy enough with the situation and he doesn't want her to use this. Like, he knows that she has desire. Every man knows, kind of subconsciously starts to figure this stuff out. And he's like, wait a second, she's losing interest in me. She's now more flirty with other guys. And again, this is not her fault. This is your fault. It's your fault because you're expecting her to do the impossible, basically. It's kind of like if you said to an old man, hey, look, get younger. I want you to get younger. Like I looked at you today and you look older than yesterday. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then the next year, like, look at you. You're falling apart. I told you to get younger. And the guy's like, well, I'm trying to get younger. I'm doing my best, but he can't because people age and they die. And this is the reality of life, right? Here is another reality. After marriage, her sexual desire for you will go down a lot. Okay. So you need to know that. It has nothing to do with her. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your money. It has nothing to do with your height. It has nothing to do with your muscles. It has nothing to do with your penis. It has nothing to do with your humor. It has nothing to do with your house. It has nothing to do with the way you do chores. Okay. It has nothing to do with, like what you were going to do on Sunday together, right? Or how you cook, or, it's just, it is an impossible to escape reality of life. So when a man marries, if a man does marry, he knows that he will no longer be sexually attractive to her. It goes down. And the reason why I say no longer, you're going to say, oh no, look at this chart, Ronin. It just slowly goes down. Okay, listen, man. Sexuality is complicated. And I think here's why I say that is because, okay, let's say that I remember the very first time I saw a camisole, like basically sexy underwear. Okay. The very first time I had sex a lot, but none of the girls, because I was very young, like I started having sex when I was 12, right? So young sexual experiences. And obviously we had no money, right? So you're not like out, driving a Ferrari at 12, right? You know what I mean? You're just, playing around in the garage or whatever, you know what I mean? So, or behind a tree or whatever, So I had never seen sexy underwear. So I was, how old was I when I saw? Now keep in mind, it was a different era. I'm 56 years old. That era, like people didn't have vibrators. There was no internet. Like there was no If anybody had a vibrator, that means they went to an erotic X-rated store, which was a big deal. Like that was close to crime. Like that was like, and not that it was like you were a criminal for going there, but they were dens of criminal behavior. Like it was outside of society. Now people all had desire to go there, but it also was a magnet. And if you ask any police, they will tell you it was a magnet for other things around there too, prostitution, drugs, and all kinds of people that were in jail. It kind of became a kind of hangout for people that were not doing so well or not into society, right? Obviously, there was normal couples going in there too that just wanted to get off on their rocks. But what was I going to say? Fuck, I totally lost. This is the thing. There's so much to sexuality that you can just go in so many directions, like with this whole thing. What was I going to say about sexuality back then? Or what I learned? I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. Damn. Okay. This is the thing with my episodes is I don't. A lot of people, when they make episodes, they will edit them a lot. I consider editing to be a form of lying. And that's why I give you the whole thing, because I want you to see how I work the mathematical problem out. Okay, not just the answer. Because how I work it out is actually very valuable. Because otherwise, it's difficult to understand a complex concept without seeing how it's built, how the steps you went through to get there. That's why I don't edit out. And I don't even mind if I forget a few things, because you're getting, in fact, you can probably go back and figure out what I was going to say, or you might even be able to do that. You might. But anyway, so let's take this to a close here pretty soon. Sexuality is one thing I was going to add is I had sex with women. Okay. So when I was dating multiple women. And multiple, it was more than two. Generally, it was, I liked to have more than three. So it was like four regulars, let's just say, because it varied a lot, okay? Let's say four regulars. And a regular for me, my belief is that you need to have good sex once a week in order to keep a relationship. And I found this out mathematically to be true. And if I don't, and I don't mean shitty sex, I mean like pretty good sex. If you want to keep the relationship together, a man needs to have sex, good sex once a week. And the good sex is predicated on the fact that she's still interested in you. See? So you kind of have to not commit in order for her to be attracted enough to you, because good sex is more dependent on the woman than the man. Although the man, he is doing a lot of the work, but the reaction of the woman is really what makes it good sex or bad sex. That is a reality of sex. Much like a wave. You can be a great surfer, but if the wave is not good, everybody knows you're not going to have a good ride. The wave is more important than the surfer. Although, there's huge differences in surfers, obviously. But even like an average punter, if he has a nice 6-foot wave with, like a nice, easy, like let's say a consistent peak that's very reliable, always goes the same direction, it always goes right, it always goes left. Nice, clean left, right? Nice, clean right. And very predictable. And that guy the punter can get out there and he can practice that wave, or let's say a wave pool. And like the average guy could, do pretty good on that wave. Whereas a professional can take a shitty wave and he can really like, and you'll see this in contests because surfing contests are really unpredictable. That's why it's difficult to get surfing in the Olympics, because some days there's hardly any waves, so it's not very exciting, right? So the contest sucks. It's like the people are like doing their best on this 1-foot wave, right? Which is boring, right? And it's boring for the surfers too, right? But anyway, the good surfer will be able to really do something even with a 1-foot wave. And you see these guys like, how the fuck do they do that? With this tiny little wave. It's amazing. But end of the day is the wave is what makes the contest, and it is what makes the ride. So, and the woman in this sense is the energy. She is the wave. The man is the guy with the tool, and he is riding that wave, and he is riding that wave, and he's kind of like almost anticipating that wave, and he is working that wave, right? His job is to be, and the wave, in this case, the woman, appreciates that, because the man has to be able to ride that wave in order to create that beautiful scenario that the wave is craving. I know it doesn't fully, the analogy of the wave, but there is something there, right? It's like a perfect painted picture of a person and an energy meeting in that perfect, like maximizing that fucking energy that's there and just using it up, just using that fucking energy where it's like, it's all burned to the ground afterwards. It's burned to the ground when you're done. You know what I mean? Like in good sex, when this happens, when this comes together, okay, you look at each other and you're just like, both of you are just burned to the ground. And I don't mean physically. It's like there's this ecstasy, there's this feeling of, oh my gosh, like, wow. It really is. I'm serious. It's like something more happens there, like religious people talk about God visiting, they feel God. There is almost like, it's much more than looking at the stars. It's much more than a lot of things. It's amazing, actually. Uh, there's a wonderment, is basically what I'm saying. It's not the answer to life. It's not everything. You don't look at the stars all day. You don't. Sex is not all the time, right? But those moments when the wave was perfect and the rider was perfect, and both used that energy to destruction. You know what I mean? To total end, decimation, where it was like milk to the end, and every little aspect was like whack, 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 that wave, whack, 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 all the way down. He's like pulling in deep, he's in the tube, he's fucking just, then he just comes out, bottom turn right, and then he's just like flying up the lip, and he's just like, bam, he's like full aerial, he's freaking, he's and then he's like down, and then he's like comes up and just fucking just across the lip, he's just, lip slide, just fucking grabs that wave, boom, he's got his speed back, there is that sense of like, what the fuck just happened? And that can never happen alone. And that can never happen. That doesn't happen when that doesn't happen when a woman's using a vibrator. It doesn't happen when a guy is watching a porn video and jerking off. It only happens with two people, right? And I really think every man should learn to ride that wave, and so one of the death keels for that is marriage. I mean, you can see it right here. And the other thing for men to think about when you're thinking about committing is, again, I'm going to say this graph here, it probably gets worse afterwards, and it's inevitable. It doesn't matter how good she is. It doesn't matter how much she loves you. It doesn't matter how nice of a person is. This is the reality, okay? Accept it. If you don't drink water for 3 days, you're going to die, okay? And if you get married, this is going to happen, okay? And every guy who got married that I married as a Japanese wedding minister, you could see it in their eyes. They were not stupid. This was not the look. If you've ever been to a club, when a guy is out there grinding with some girl, you see somebody doing that, and then they go home, or let's say you're out there, you're grinding, and then you go to the cloak room, and you grab your coat, and she's standing there, and you're going to just go home and fuck her, and she loves it, and she wants it. She's like looking at you like, and everybody in the club knows it too. Everybody's like, oh man, he's going to just, everybody knows it. The girls know it, the guys know it, and she's just sitting there, and she, in a very, rare situation, she's like letting people know, that she's going to get reamed that night, right? She loves it. She wants it. And you girls don't usually give that look. They don't allow you to see that usually. Girls are very shy about that. But maybe it's the alcohol, maybe it's the club, I don't know. But you see it. If you go check your bag, you go get her purse, you get your bag, your jacket or whatever, and then you look at her and she's just like, it's like there's that moment where you can see is that she does want it. She fucking wants it. Girls will cover that up, by the way, big time. But it is nice once in a while as a guy to actually see it. You're like, she's sitting there waiting for me. She's just, let's say she has her purse and you're getting your jacket. She could take off, right? You just met her, right? But she's like, she will wait however long it takes. She's like, I'm ready. This is it. In that moment. And so, okay. So the thing is, guys, here's the thing. That moment's not going to happen with marriage. And it's worse for guys because I'll end on this is that, okay, we know men are visual creatures. Okay. Men are one of the main sources of attraction is female. Everybody knows this is not, every girl knows the pretty girl gets the guys, right? This is no news to anybody, but for some reason, this is selectively remembered because here's the part that's not accepted. Okay, So while we know that the pretty girl gets the guys, what we forget, or what we as a society choose to ignore, is that after she gets the guy, what happens? Okay. So the pretty girl gets the guy, but everybody knows that the pretty girl becomes the old lady over time. Now, I'm not saying it's totally normal. A man becomes an old man. Okay. Just get that out of your mind. I'm talking about the man, just like I'm not blaming, okay? I'm not blaming the woman here. I'm telling you, this is an evolutionary trait. I'm saying men need to know this, because you got to listen very carefully, because even a very good person or somebody who really loves you is going to go through this. You have to know this. This is reality, okay? Now I'm saying the reality the other way is that this same graph could be used for as a woman ages, her attractiveness to the man. You will, as a woman, after you get married, every day after that, you're less attractive to your husband. And that's the reality. And there is no extenuating factors. Every day you age, you're less attractive. Okay, after marriage, guaranteed. Probably way before that, but definitely after marriage. I'm just going to use marriage because this is a good, it's a clean, easy to understand date, right? So marriage is the beginning, because this is the beginning of the relationship, essentially. It's the beginning of the permanent relationship. And from that beginning, the female becomes less attractive. The man's sexual desire doesn't change, but that female, and remember, new models, everybody knows this, are being made every day. New models are coming up through the ranks up to that marriage age, right? But this particular female, and a lot of people will say, well, it's not unfair. And I would say it is unfair. Life is unfair. I agree it's unfair. I don't think it's nice. If I was God, I would actually probably design the world a little different. Okay. But the reality is that both things are true. So the female desire for the man she commits to is going to go down a lot. I was going to say, the reason why it's so important to know why I said it's so extreme is because, here's what I was going to say, the camisole story. Okay. So when I saw that camisole the first time, I was blown away. But then she wore it the next time, and it was kind of like, I saw the camisole again. And I felt bad because the first time I could not believe how hot it was. I'm serious. This girl was really attractive. It looked so beautiful on her skin. I couldn't believe it. I remember it exactly. It was a black camisole and her little fucking sexy little titties and ass and legs. And I was just like, I was young. I thought it was the most hottest thing in the whole entire world. I could not believe how hot it was. I'm serious. I wanted to just eat every part of her body. And I just absolutely, we had insane sex that time. But she only had one, and she wore the same thing the second day. And I was really disappointed because I felt guilty because I kind of expected to have that same sense of wonderment with her the second time. But it was really disappointing to see that same camisole. Again, it's not anybody's fault. It's just the way that, new things are. The second time you see them, it's not the same as the first. And so the reason why I say it's so extreme for the man is because, for many reasons. One is because as a woman ages, she becomes less attractive to him. And men are basically visual creatures. But her desire for him is even more important than her attractiveness, actually. Because a woman's eyes, when you look in a woman's eyes and she wants you, if you've ever seen this, like real desire for you, you will know that's the real deal. And nothing else is real. Once Once you've seen a girl's eyes flicker where she's waiting for you like a fucking kitten and she just wants you to be a man. Tonight, she just wants it so bad. Once you've seen that, and once you've seen a girl deeply in love with you, just almost like drunk on sex, almost like just so like a purring kitten with you, it is impossible to forget. And when I saw that, when I started to see that, and this really happened when I was dating a lot of women, because I was really, if you shoot a lot of baskets, let's say free throws, you get very good at free throws because you're practicing the same shot over and over. When you're having sex with like hundreds of women, you really do get better. You really do. You get better at every little aspect of it, like the timing of it, the flow of it, taking clothes off, finding places, saying things. You're like, you really, so few guys have sex with a lot of women that this is not well known. But I would guess that, this is common for every guy who has a lot of experiences. You really do get better. And I mean, the whole body of you, the timing of you, the things you say, they're soft at the right times, and then they peak at the right times. You kind of, you understand the thing, and you know when to stop and when it's not right. Like the whole thing makes sense. And not that you're perfect, but you definitely are not flying blind anymore. You have a very good map of what's going on. But the woman, especially if you're dating many women, the reason why it really works is because at the same time as like I was having sex with at least, 7 girls a week, those girls often were not. And so they would come to me after not having a lot of sex or even no sex that week. And I was improving and learning things, and I would surprise them with my new move. I would surprise them with my, new thing like new twist. And so she was being introduced to new experiences all the time. And that was like very attractive for her. And I think this is one of the main reasons why women are attracted to alpha guys is because, quote unquote alpha, because they are able to not only ride the wave with them, but in that riding of the wave, a female sexuality, and this is really important to know, is something that needs to be opened up. It's not something that's there. It's the same as you as a man. When you become a man, you don't find yourself, okay? Forget about finding yourself. I think women find themselves. Men do not. Men create themselves. You create the man that you become by your goals, by the work that you do, by the foundation you lay, by the education you get. And actually a woman's sexuality in a relationship with another person is like this too. The female really is the receptor in many ways of sexuality. At the same time, can be the leader. And I'm, like I said, if I see her like you see like a tiger trying to roar for the first time, right? You see a woman kind of like trying her sexuality. It's like, you can see it kind of naturally coming out of her. She's not, again, there's nothing scary about that. It's nothing taking control. She's kind of roaring, and it's kind of cute. Like you realize, oh, she's like, you want her to do that. You want her to kind of allow herself to do that. So there is that aspect to women, but a lot of it is the man leading, and then the woman's sexuality being opened up, almost like it's like a castle with many doors, and you're finding the new doors. And what I mean by that is that, and this is very important. This part here is for women, this part, because, and also obviously for men, because you need to know what to do. But I will tell you this, one of the most, I don't know if I talked about it in this episode before, but one of the surprising things to me ever was that, like, let's say a woman had sex with me just because she wants to keep me around, right? I didn't like that because I sensed the difference. I could see her eyes, and I knew it wasn't the same desire she had before. But the funny thing is by initiating it, or by allowing it to happen, or whatever you call it, the sexual act, the experience would start again. And I found that although she might be doing it initially to keep me, if I was able to really ride that tiger of energy, that flame, that wave, that there was an aspect of her sexuality that actually could be opened up. And it was no longer her just trying to keep me around, right? It started with like a very mundane, meaningless thing. And so if you asked her, she'd say, that's what I'm doing, right? And I'm not saying it was like a huge revelation or anything. What I'm saying is at the end of the act, it wasn't always the same thing. It wasn't like her just like zipping up and leaving, like I did my job. And I know that look, okay? That look, girls have that. Girls are very practical. Sometimes there was an unknown room that she didn't know about that you found somehow. And she'd be like, damn, like I started this thing out just to make him happy, but damn, there's still juice. There's still juice in this orange. You know what I mean? And it's my belief that as long as a couple still is having sex, there is the possibility of juice in that orange. And I know that it's the man's responsibility to know this and to push forward, to keep the sexuality going on. And I would say that it is the female's job to understand that even though, she might not feel like she's in the mood that day, to understand this, that the house you're building, okay, of a relationship is going to be destroyed if sex disappears. Okay. And everybody should watch my sexless relationships episode. I personally think that's a work of art. I think that's the best episode I've ever done in many ways. That is, I don't know, that came out of it was a wisdom beyond me that came in that. And there's a lot of women listen to that. Look at the comments. But when you let that fire die in a relationship, and I mean that fire, I don't mean like a burning hot thing. I mean just like physically the fire going out. And when that fire totally dies, you can't restart it. It is impossible. So even for your own long-term goals, unless as a female you're ready to divorce and leave the guy now, if you're not ready for that, I highly recommend to be open to continuing the sexual experience, even though you don't want to, even though you don't feel it, even though you're tired of the guy, even though, because it's not that he's going to find that room. Okay. You might say, well, Ronin said that, and maybe Ronin could find it, or some guy could find it, but my husband's not going to find it. Okay. So there's always a good and a bad, or a negative and a positive, right? So maybe the positive is not there. Maybe he's not going to find the room. Okay. Maybe he doesn't have the experience. Maybe for whatever reason he's found, or he is experiencing all the rooms are found, whatever. There's a negative that you got to think about too. Just like you could win money, you could lose money. And unless you are sure, like if you're ready to walk out the door, if you're ready to pack your bag and say, God, it's been great knowing you, I'm ready to move on, and whatever you need to do, if you have kids, joint custody, or whatever it is, if you're ready to totally move on, move houses, then don't do this. Okay. But if you're not ready, you need to understand that and the woman is the decider in sex. And I let the woman be the decider. Okay. I understand that. Yeah, the woman's the decider. I'm not here to push anybody. Somebody doesn't have sex with me, I'm out of there. No problem. I am not the guy who traps girls at the door at all. The minute she's not interested, it's like water. I'm like water. I'm like, whew, gone. And often women are like, whoa, like, when I say this, I'm serious. Like, a lot of guys don't realize how serious I am. I'm like water. I am not at all the pushy guy, ever. That is not my style at all. In fact, I am the exact opposite. I disappear in a way you've never seen because I know that there's nothing in this direction for me. The best thing I can do is just be like water and get out of there. And once in a while, like let a bird, if he loves you, let him go and he'll come back. Sometimes what they're talking about is like that right there. Once in a while, the bird does come back. Like I've had females come back and say, I was kind of like expecting you to be mad that we didn't have sex this time because, you knew we were going to do it. Or, I was expecting you to kind of try to talk me into it or pressure me or something. And I was blown away because you were actually a total gentleman. Like you were just like, okay, that's fine. Your desire, essentially accepting the truth. Her desire is waning or it's gone or the desire for me is gone. Right. I'm like, no, I don't have an ego about that. I'm just like, oh, okay. Her desire is gone. Right. Right. That's what I'm talking about. My sexual desire is the same. I get out there and go to the mall, start talking to girls. Like I know my sexual desire is exactly the same outside of this one like closed capsule. Right. So inside this closed capsule, I see that it's not there. And I'm like, oh, geez. Not only do I do it like water, but I'm very grateful to get out because I know that moment, if you watch my video, when she's no longer fun, is only going to be pain from then on for both of us. And I don't want that for any one of us. So I'm just like, whew, I heard you loud and clear, baby. You know what I mean? And I'm gone. And there has been times when, I don't know if it was gratitude or whatever. Like I was the one guy who didn't like, a lot of guys are pushy, maybe I was the one guy who just like didn't push her, that she was like blown away. And like, there was a sense they could trust me, there was a sense of trust. Like, wow, this guy's different, and sometimes that led to a woman kind of shedding off a lot of her preconceived notions about men and starting to actually see me. Right. And that was what created desire again, because she might have had like some kind of movie in her mind about what a relationship is and what a man is. Right. But when you Houdini and you totally do not fit that role, some women are, they like sit back and they're like, intelligent women are like, whoa, something's happening I didn't expect. And it's totally different than what I am used to. So many guys are pushy. Do not be pushy, guys. Do not be that guy. This might be my most important message to you when it comes to females. Do not be wishing for things that aren't there. Do not be pushy. You are, that whole mindset is, I guess it's a tempting trap for guys or something. You're just better off if you don't do that. Okay. Whether any woman's ever going to find any attraction for you after that or not, you just have to know that dog is dead. The dog is dead. That episode, the dog is dead. And when you understand the dog is dead, or if you see the dog is probably dead, if the dog isn't dead, believe me, the dog is going to let you know. And the dog might even say, like, I was playing dead. I won't play that game anymore. You know what I mean? Because animals play dead for a very serious reason, right? Because there's a predator that chases them, and the only way they can get out of it is by playing dead, right? So it's a very proactive thing, actually, playing dead. So sometimes a woman will play dead, and it is an attempt to see if you are really one of these guys. Like every guy that she's ever met is very pushy, you know? He doesn't understand sexuality, and he's just a pain in the ass once she starts to say no, right? I'm not a pain in the ass when she says no at all. Because one, I know it could happen at any time, right? And two, I realize it doesn't have anything to do with me, just like this graph. I've already understand that. And so when I see it, I might even have sympathy for her inside myself. Because I'm like, I understand this stuff, but she might not understand it. She might think, a woman might on the surface tell you, right, she wants to end it, whatever. But inside herself, she has doubts. And she talks to her friend and says, maybe I, should have done this more. Or maybe I should have, she doesn't understand that it is just biology. You know what I mean? But I do. So the opposite of being pushy or angry, not only do I accept it, but I might even kind of like her more as a person, because I see her as a more honest person, right? So many women are dishonest, right? I don't date men, so I don't know. But so many women that I date, there's so much dishonesty in this world. And I don't mean it's always proactive or on purpose. Like sometimes we just do things because we think we're supposed to. Society tells us, our mothers tell us, whatever. I'm not saying this is not bad, but there's just so much lack of self-awareness too, But when you show that you understand life and are not, for lack of a better word, a hostage taker type of guy. Most men are hostage takers. So when they get married, they're expecting her logic to overpower her natural desires. So the woman tries to get married, right? But from the man's perspective, he's like, okay, we got a contract. I'm giving up money, financial security. And so whether you want to have sex with me or not, you got to do it. And I don't give a shit. And this is the way most guys think. Like it's like a contract. And this is not putting down guys. Like this is like what guys think. This is logical thinking. This is like, yeah, I made a big commitment, right? And she made a big commitment to me. And we had sex all the time. That's an unspoken commitment. This is our relationship. She should do it, But I'm telling you right now, this whole thinking you have to get rid of. You need to clean your mind out. And one, you're writing the energy. Two, your desire to overpower reality is got to go. Three, she's going to lose interest in you sexually. And it's your fault because you committed to her. And she's going to be more attracted to other men. And it's your fault because you committed to her. If you consider that bad, okay. Now, there are mitigating factors like children, right? That would be a very good reason right there. Because a man could say, and this is what I would say, is I don't really care. If I was going to have a kid, I would know this is all true, but in advance, okay, and I did know this. And so it didn't really bother me because I was like, okay, as long as, and this is what the sugar or whatever, and this is an Asian thing, is the woman will respect the guy in public and give him the face that is necessary for him, right? So she might not be having sex with him, but when his boss comes over, when they go to dinner, when they're in public, she doesn't debase him in public because she knows that's very important for a man. She's not trying to, she's worked out her issues. She's not hating all men. She's not hating this guy. She also knows, she's mature. She knows that they're doing this for another reason, right? Let's say children is the main reason to get married. And so she realizes that the company they started no longer exists. There's like a new thing here, like an NGO type thing. There's a whole new thing going on here. And it has whole new goals and whole new things, right? And in order to keep that structure sound, there's certain things that need to happen. And the man needs respect. And so while she doesn't do exactly what she did as a girlfriend, she goes harder on the other one. So you'll always see the Asian guy, he'll always have the power seat at the table. And that's not by mistake, and that's not misogyny. He's not getting a lot of the things that men want, but he's getting respect. He's being respected as the man of the house. He's being respected in public. And as a man gets older, that becomes very important, you know. He understands that that is a valuable thing. Being disrespected when a man, and here's the thing, a man who deserves respect, you know, he is still not desired by her because of biology. And her attractiveness to him has dropped like a rock. But the respect is there, right? And the understanding that they're not doing the same thing they did before. This is a whole new thing, right? And they found that balance in that new scenario, right? So for a couple, I would say that in general, Western couples do not understand these basic concepts. But I think it's important. I think it's really important. Marriage is on the decline. Birth rates are on the decline. People have an innate desire to procreate. People have an innate desire to have kids, you know, and that doesn't mean you have to do it. Okay, I'm not saying that, but we do have an innate desire. Okay, and a lot of people want to fulfill that desire. And if you do, you're best off if you understand the simple things in life. I don't know if this is simple, actually. It's actually very complicated. But if you understand the basics, the fundamentals, the laws of gravity, and these are the laws of gravity, is that all these things I said are true. And so, I was going to say one last thing about the girl on the rag. This is in a sense that I was talking about when she has sex in a relationship, when she doesn't want to. Sometimes, once in a while, there'll be a new door they find. And there's another sense of by being close, you know, things naturally get better. Oh God, now I forgot it. God, this thing is so elusive, this last thought. Fuck, that was a great thought. I can't remember it. Okay, let me show you. I want to give you an idea of, I'm going to end on this here, the simplicity of life, right? Just understand the basics, guys. I don't know why people these days do not like to understand these things. Because when you understand life, your life will be better. Like, really, you're lost when you don't understand sexuality, when you don't understand the way you are and the way females are and why things happen the way they are. Because this is why men blame women for not having sex. It's like, dude, this, she just, this is inevitable. And you on the receiving end, who innately desire a woman who looks at him with passion. And as she wears that same underwear over and over, you get bored of it. You need more. And as her desire for you goes down, this feels like a punch in the gut. It looks like a slow decline to a woman. You don't understand what that decline means to a man. He's being sucked into a black hole of not being wanted and worthlessness because he needs more. That camisole one time, that was great, but he wants you to desire him more. He wants that, but you can't give that to him, right? I'm not saying you should, but that is what he wants. And while your attractiveness is going down, your attraction to him is going down exponentially from his eyes. And there's this natural, very difficult to balance, thing here. And I think that understanding of things is very important for both sexes, right? And it really helps with the demonization too. The demonization of people. And then, it's her. Think Las Vegas. It's the numbers. Right? And it's sometimes life is so dead simple. So I think I'm going to end on that. I want to say, I'm glad you hung around to the end. I think there's a lot of lessons in this one. Many, many, many deep lessons in this one. And I'm really glad I made it. So I look forward to your comments below, and let's hear. If anybody's female, I want to hear from you. Couples listening, I want to hear. Guys, what did you learn? What did you almost know but not quite sure? What was clarified? And what was like revelation, if there was any? And what can you see differently now, right? That you think, whoa, let me think about this one, right? Let me think about this one. All right, guys, I appreciate you listening, and I hope you guys have a good day.